All right. So the vast majority of the questions I've been getting about peptides. Peptides are growing. Everybody's talking about them. So the number one thing I can tell you to do with these is to work with someone who knows what they're doing with them. I realize how silly that sounds. How like, well, obviously that's what you should do, but that's 100% what you should do. I'll get calls from people who, oh, my friend did this online. They got this stuff online and it really messed them up. Well, okay, peptides are powerful. If you don't know what you're doing with them, they're not like a supplement where you take it and you're like, oh, I got a little bit of, no, it's these things are more powerful than that. So make sure you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing with them. Start off. Some of the big issues we've been getting, people are having issues with the injection site. That is oftentimes not because of the peptide, but because of the water you use to mix it with. Benzyl alcohol has, benzene, things like that, have a big reaction point for a lot of people. So changing the injection fluid that you're using to reconstitute these things is a big part of why people have issues. So again, when you're working with somebody and you have these reactions, they can go, oh, I know what that is. This is what you have to do to fix it. So that's a big issue. And then the way things are dosed. I'm not trying to argue with people that, oh, I got success. Fine. Like I see a lot of people talking about dosing stuff online, ways I would never dose it. You got to take a lot or it's not going to work. That is horrible advice for vast majority of the peptides. You're going to take it all at once, as much as you can. Don't do that. Small amounts give small reactions. Big amounts give big reactions. If you don't know what the reaction is going to be, or you don't know how sensitive you are to that particular peptide, taking a bunch of it's really stupid. Some of this stuff I just feel like is really common sense, but apparently that's not what's on the internet. But here's the thing. Once you know how your body responds, you can increase the dose. If you've never done them, how do you know you're not going to have a reaction to the water or to the peptide or anything else that you're taking with it, or how you're using it, or when during the day you're supposed to take it, or what to do whenever you have reactions? Guys, get with somebody who knows what they're doing with these. And that might be your medical doctor. It might not be. It's probably not. But do work with people who understand what's going on with these things. So there's a lot of these things, like I said, that are fantastic. Semaglutide's great. Tirzepatide is great. Retatrutide is my favorite, but it's also great. How you use these things is really important. So for instance, let's roll back to the one we've all heard about that's FDA approved, so I can talk about without getting in too much trouble. Let's talk about semaglutide. Okay, semaglutide was the primary one that everybody's been using for a long time. It's worked really, really well. It's a GLP-1. It has upsides and downsides. The number one thing that I saw as a problem with it was people were being overdosed, was the primary thing. The secondary thing is that they were given no support. Okay, let's walk through this real quickly. When you take a GLP-1, some of the things that are going to happen that you kind of want to happen is it's going to start blocking that ghrelin hormone that tells your body you're hungry. And so what ends up, it usually increases leptin. That's more information than most people care about. But anyway, what ends up happening is that you're just not hungry. Fantastic. So you're going to eat less. Great. Here's the problem. If you go into this in a glucose-fed state and your muscles and your bones and everything in your body is still running on sugar, your body's going to create a higher level of sugar, which means it's going to tear apart your muscle tissues at a much higher level. If you're not on a growth hormone adjunct, if you're not on testosterone, if you're not consuming the proper amount of nutrition during the day, which is minerals and D3 and CoQ10 and protein and all the things your body requires to run, it's going to tear apart your muscle tissues at a much higher level. And so this whole 40 to 50% of the weight loss that we saw with semaglutide was from lean muscle mass. That's why, because whoever was working with you on this, if anybody, didn't explain to you, hey, when you force the body to start doing this thing that it hasn't done in a long time, you need to supply the chemistry that your body is going to use to do these things, which is minerals, B vitamins, specifically B6 for a lot of this fat stuff. B2 is important. Folic acid is critically important as well for the whole process. But that's one of the big things. This cholecystitis people were getting was, one, from an overdose issue. Two, they got no liver support. So here's the thing. Most people who were taking this were taking it because they weren't processing fat fast enough. Well, so guess what? If you go out and you walk around the block once a day for 10 minutes and you're like, oh, I do some exercise, and then you go do a hardcore 2-hour workout that, one of your bodybuilder buddies wrote you, you're not going to be able to walk for 2 days because you did way more than your body's used to. So if your body's not used to processing and burning fat and doing all these things, and then you force it into the system, and then you wonder why it fails, or you wonder why your body ate all your muscle tissue, because you didn't supply the body with the chemistry that it required to do the job you're asking it to do. And here's the thing. Yeah, your body will tear apart your muscle tissues to get the protein to make sugar for your blood. Happens all the time. It's easy. It's not that big of a deal. But here's the other thing. Your body will also rip apart your muscle tissues to get at the minerals that are inside so they can process and fuel the liver to do the processes you're asking it to do. And sometimes if you don't feed the body the nutrients it requires, it creates a ton of waste. Well, your body has to denature and move that waste out as well. So it'll, again, rip apart your muscle tissues to get the minerals and stuff like that. So when you're doing these things, a lot of the side effects are because people were not, either dosed properly, or they didn't get the support they needed, they didn't exercise and things like that. So on the growth hormone adjuncts, taking them at the wrong time is problematic. And here's the crazy thing about that. Some people need to take it before they work out. Some people need to take it in the morning. Most people need to take it at night. You can do them both. You can do a little bit in the morning and at night, and it benefits in different ways. But it depends on what type of workout you're doing, when you're doing it, and what your goals are. So like growth hormone is fantastic to offset the issues we see with the GLP-1s. So, and you can pick your peptide, CGAC 1295, ipamorelin, sermorelin, tesamorelin. It doesn't really matter for this process. It matters what's best for your body. But at the end of the day, if you're going to take these just for to prevent muscle loss, nighttime is awesome. Just take them at night. You'll end up with a little bit better sleep function, and you're going to end up with, maintaining a lot of your muscle mass because your body naturally produces this stuff at night because your body's set up to process, regenerate, repair, and heal at night while you're asleep. So taking it, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you go to bed so that it starts producing while you're asleep, way to go. Good job. Now, but here's the thing. If your liver's not really healthy and has all the stuff it needs, it's hard for your body to take that growth hormone your brain produces and turn it into IGF-1 in your liver, which is what your body's actually using. That's insulin-like growth factor 1 to repair and heal everything. So again, when you take these things is really important. How much you take is also important. So the first time I always have people take a little bit and be like, okay, like 2 hours before bed, tell me how you feel. Tell me if you have flushing, if your gut does twirly stuff, if you have loose stools or whatever, here's the fixes for all those things. But that's kind of how we walk through that one. One of the things we use all the time, especially in our female athletes and female bodybuilders and stuff, is we'll get a lot of these women who come in and they're like, hey, I want to run Anavar. And I'm like, I love Anavar. Anavar is a fantastic tool. If you use it right, it's awesome. It's, if you support the liver, it's not bad in the liver, the whole deal. The problem with Anavar, especially for women, problem with the guys too, but mostly with women, is it's highly androgenic, which means you're going to lose your hair. Well, so one of the things we've started switching to is instead of using Anavar, why don't we run your test like you're normally doing it, and then add in some of the growth hormone adjuncts, like I just mentioned, and bring up your body's ability to burn fat and build muscle tissue that way. Because you can also do those in a lower fed state. So your calorie deficit, which I use that term because people know what it is, but it is calories are the dumbest thing in the world. Anyway, that helps out maintain muscle function because it's telling your body to regenerate the stuff it's tearing apart. But again, you guys need to really, if you're gonna do a cut like that, you're gonna eat a lot less. If you're gonna be on any of these GLP-1s, semaglutide, tirzepatide, even Retta, and retatrutide is fantastic. It's much better at preserving lean muscle mass than the rest of them, but you still have to make sure that you're getting in the body's requirement function. So, we always check testosterone levels, or we give options for I usually use CJC and ipamorelin, so you can use your growth hormones for that. You're doing some type of exercise and you're consuming protein. And it doesn't really, you don't have to eat like 3 steaks a day. It's not that type of deal. It's like, are you getting in some of the protein throughout the day to maintain this? Because again, muscle tissue, the things you got to worry about are minerals. Protein's probably last, but protein is one. And then all the cofactors, CoQ10, glutathione, so you take your NAC and stuff like that. So these are some of the things we got to walk on. So biggest thing, if you guys want to maximize your utilization and maximize your safety and get the results you're trying to get, work with people who know what they're doing on this. Work with people who have worked with a lot of other people, work with people who have gone, work with the bodybuilders. If your person who you're working with has not worked with any bodybuilders, I don't know if they've worked with very many people, because the peptides have been around for a long time in the bodybuilding community. And you're going to get the vast majority of your actual knowledge, research, and information on tolerances and stuff like that, and what's been done and what has worked with your bodybuilding community. If those would be the guys I'd make sure that you're working with the most. The only downside of that is if that's the only people they've worked with, that might be a little bit caveat as well, because most of your bodybuilders are used to eating a pretty strict diet, exercising, and they understand how their body feels when they introduce new chemicals and stuff to it. So, but that's where a lot of this is. A lot of the dangers and all the issues people are seeing is because either the person didn't understand what was going to happen when they put the peptide in, and not oh, you're going to lose weight, but okay, what's the chemical process? What is actually going to go on? What do we need to support? What do we need to make sure that you're aware of? How do we deal with symptoms, issues when they come up? Because a lot of these things are driven by your symptomatology. It's when you feel this, do that. When you feel this, take this instead. When you do this, for instance, nausea, the intensity of the nausea on some of these weight loss things is a good key indicator. You want it to be very low. You want it to be if I just sit and think about it, I have it, but not it preoccupies my mind. I'm trying to do stuff in the day and I feel nauseous. That's too much. You're in the wrong spot. If you shut down gut function completely, that's obviously bad. That's in the wrong spot. That's too much. And you got to figure out how you personally are going to figure out that your gut is shut off. But these are a lot of the things, like I said, you can buy these things online and you can use them and you can have great success, but you can also have a lot of problems because, again, these things aren't dangerous, they're powerful. So just make sure that you're working with people who know what they're doing, and you can end up getting great results. These peptides are the key to metabolic function. We can literally turn things on, turn things off, increase things, decrease things. We've been able to see phenomenal a side effect is something that we weren't necessarily going for, but we got. And so one of the things that's actually a side effect that we've seen with PCOS and endometriosis with some of these GLP-1s is the PCOS and endometriosis calms way down, because as soon as you get those glucose and those sugar levels and the insulin resistance kind of put back where they're supposed to be, all of a sudden what we start seeing is these women are like, oh my gosh, I had one call me and she was like, I started my cycle today. And I'm like, great. And she's like, no. I don't hurt. She's like, I can feel it. She's like, but I'm not curled up in the bathroom floor anymore. And this is a thing that was very, very common for her because she has PCOS. But these are fantastic tools. Just make sure that you get with people who know what they're doing with them, and you guys are going to have really good success. So if you guys have any other questions, hit us up. I got some on stem cells, but we're doing that stem cell thing on Monday. So we should answer all those questions then. You guys have a fantastic time and be safe.